All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining session one of our four-part series dedicated to sourcing and material innovation and fashion in celebration of the launch of the CFDA.com Materials Hub, created in partnership with UGG. My name is Cal McNeil, and I'm the Associate Director of Program Strategies at the CFDA. In my role, I lead all fashion supply chain related programming and the team for the organization, including the Materials Hub. So to kick off this series, we are speaking with Ericsson, Director of Product Marketing at UGG, to discuss sustainability and innovation through the UGG lens. As a reminder, our chat is pre-recorded and will be uploaded on CFDA.com and our YouTube channel as well after the scheduled release. Nix, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Cal. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the partnership with the CFDA. We're super excited about the opportunity and the partnership to really support the design community and brands on this journey to advance sustainable business practices. So we really hope that sharing our journey today with you and the viewers will really help inspire the industry, make it possible for us all to collectively make a difference.
Absolutely. That is the goal. And we're very happy to have you here and having UGG as part of the Materials Hub. So let's jump into it.
Great.
All right. So the first question I typically like to start out with when speaking about sustainability, so the audience really gets a sense of the language I use when talking about it, since the word sustainability is such a broad term, is what does sustainability mean to you personally, whether that's through the work that you do or your overall life?
Yeah, great question. Personally, I'm super excited about sustainability, and I share that with many individuals across our organization. I think it's really helped create a powerful foundation for innovation and change. But in terms of sustainability, we really believe it must be looked at holistically. So we look at environmental, we look at social factors, all elements of product, like including packaging. When it comes to environmental metrics, we want to look at multiple ones too, not just carbon. But also humanity, human rights, ethical supply chain is important. So holistically, I think is the main answer. And I've been with the brand for about 9 years, and we've been on this journey for a long time of transforming UGG from a brand known for just one boot to this California fashion lifestyle brand, and with a really strong commitment to both people and the planet. And I think, like many brands today, we're on a journey towards sustainability, right? And we've made some great progress, but we still have a long way to go. I think I'm here today to represent this larger cross-functional team, because I think that's really what it takes in organizations to make a difference, especially organizations where sustainability wasn't one of the original founding business models. So we're excited about this opportunity of sharing our insight and our journey. Migrating brands towards sustainability, it's no small task at all. And the way we do it is to really examine every aspect of our business, from materials to production to packaging, as well as we do here in our headquarters and around the world in our offices. And our commitments, they're going to take years to complete, but I think it's important to share where we're at. Hopefully we'll inspire some established brands to make these changes. It's important that we do this together, but also we're hoping that some of the emerging brands and the members in your organization can get some information of how they can sustainably develop their businesses.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's really admirable to think about everything you're doing open source, and even things like your Feel Good website, which you introduced in 2020, and that's a great platform for designers to use. And that outlines a lot of UGG's commitments, as you mentioned, and goals to supporting people and planet, which is very much aligned with, my personal, take on sustainability, the CFDA's take as well. Great. So I think there's a ton of alignment there. All right, so now shifting from, your personal stance within sustainability and how you define it to now how UGG does it. And so how does UGG approach sustainability in its business practices?
Yeah, so UGG is committed to people and the planet. And we know that the fashion, the footwear industry really has a lot to answer for and a long way to go. So we're excited to play our part in driving the industry to be better. And at UGG, we recognize that this is a journey, and we're continually developing and implementing our roadmap towards a better future for all. But the way we look at it, and what's important to note, is that we've been a member of the UNGC since 2016, and that partnership has really allowed us to focus on those areas that are most applicable to our business. So for UGG, the focuses are materials, water, waste, and energy, but also gender equality, reduced inequalities, and human rights. And when it comes to people and DEI, we're committed to representing 60% of BIPOC and LGBTQ plus and diversity of body types and abilities in our marketing campaigns by 2022. We joined the Valuable 500, which is a global movement really putting disability inclusion on the business leadership agenda. So we've joined almost 500 of the world's leading brands, pledging to pursue meaningful inclusivity and better representation within the fashion industry for almost over 1.3 billion people across the world, about 50% of the global population who are living with some form of disability. So it's important to note that we're striving to foster, everything we do, equity. So we support and amplify the voices of people with disabilities from our process and to our products. And then from a product point of view, we really strive to maximize the amount of preferred materials that we use in our product. So that would include recycled, renewable, regenerated, or certified materials, natural materials. Because we know that when we understand what our products are made of and where they come from, it allows us to make better sourcing decisions. It allows us to guide our teams toward more sustainable material selections. And another thing that's been really helpful for us is our life cycle assessment tool. That enables us to really understand valuable environmental impact metrics, which then allows us to evaluate the entire footprint of all our materials across all our gates. So what we do is that we measure environmental impacts across a number of different ways. We study fossil fuel, greenhouse gas emissions with carbon uptakes. We study water usage, freshwater eutrophication. So we really believe that each of these environmental impact metrics must be studied for us to really evaluate how they ladder up to the larger UNGC Sustainable Development Goals. And how they really affect the vitality of the planet. And we're working on some really exciting sustainability initiatives right now. We have a big focus around material innovation. And I'm sure, as you know, about 70% of the fashion industry's emissions are related to materials, right? So that's why we're here today. It's largely coming from the production and the preparation and the processing phases. So what we try to do is to really strive to lower our emissions by using repurposed materials, regenerated, which, for example, could be plant-based, that we do a lot of work with, renewable. We work with sugarcane EVA in our outsoles. And we're looking at certified fibers wherever possible. And what we're really trying to do is to increase the use in our collections of these type of materials by 35% by 2027. We also do a lot of work around carbon accounting, right? So reducing emissions means that accurately measuring them and understanding exactly where they are coming from is key. So at UGG, we measure the individual impacts of our materials and all our packaging through the life cycle assessment tool I told you about. And by tracking the emissions there, we can really identify exactly what we need to work on. So we're able to set realistic targets and consistently minimize the environmental impact of the products we put out in the world. And then finally, something that we're very excited about and that we've spent a lot of attention on recently is regenerative farming. And regenerative farming is this reciprocal relationship with the planet that means giving back and working to restore the damage done over the years. And regenerative agriculture gives us a way to do that. And we're members of Savory Institute. We're a frontier member of their Land to Market program. And that means that through them, we're promoting proper land management, which leads to an increase of biodiversity and carbon sequestration opportunities. And we really believe that we need to facilitate the use of regeneratively farmed materials in fashion in general. So what we're doing at UGG is putting over $3 million into a grant program that helps promote soil health and biodiversity. And our end goal is to transition the Australian sheepskin industry towards a regenerative model. So very powerful. And,
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we're excited. This year we're regenerating 200,000 acres of land, which is a big deal, and we have a goal of regenerating 1 million acres within 5 years.
Wow. I think you demonstrate how many different areas of focus a company needs to really think about as it relates to the word sustainability, which goes back to the point of the first question, which is it's such a broad term and it can relate to so many different areas that people and planet even is extremely broad. But you did an incredible job of breaking that down. So thank you for doing that.
Great.
With one specific point that I feel like is really interesting is how UGG communicates a lot of these things in a very transparent way, whether through conversations like this or whether within the Feel Good digital platform that you introduced in 2020. That outlines specifically a lot of your commitments that you just discussed and a lot of goals, for supporting people and planet. And it looks really incredible. And I don't think, enough brands are really focusing on, sharing a lot of that information publicly. So it's really admirable to have that information on the site. What led you and the team to introduce that platform? And what do you hope that an industry can learn from the information you provided there? Since you have so many different areas of focus, what can a industry individual learn from that, or a consumer even?
Yeah, no, great. Thanks, Cal. And I think transparency is really, really important for us at UGG. And we knew that it was important to create a place where we could house engaging, informative content, make it accessible to everybody, and communicate all the initiatives that we're engaged in. So the way we've structured it, is that we focus our messaging. We're trying to make it as simple and straightforward as possible, because many of these things are complicated. So we focus our message around environment, community, and innovation. And this site gives context to basically all the brand's ambitious long-term sustainability goals. It lists all the projects, highlights all the global partnerships we have. And through this platform, this website, we really want consumers to be able to follow and understand what we're doing as a brand, both from a social point of view and an environmental impact point of view, so they can join us on the journey. And I think it is a very wide topic, like you mentioned earlier in the call. So I think what we're trying to do is to help consumers to easily digest some of these more complicated aspects of sustainability, because it gets pretty technical, life cycle assessment tools, UNGC, climate goals, SDGs. It's a lot for consumers to understand. So what we're hoping to do is to create a platform for education, for inspiration, to bring consumers along on this journey. So I think that will help them how these various initiatives around material innovation and ethical supply chain, for instance, all help to positively influence the fight against climate change and empower them with the information they need to make good decisions. So we're working on even more sustainability initiatives that's going to roll out on Feel Good. We have some really robust targets that we're going to launch in November. So unfortunately, I can't tell you about those now, but check back in November again, and we can discuss that further.
That's great. I'm looking forward to that. And I think that's you really show that we have the same mission within Materials Hub and the Feel Good site as well, which is all about education, all around connecting designers and different industry individuals with resources. And so that's, I think, shows a lot of the synergies between UGG and CFDA. That were why we came together for this, because there has to be a lot more information shared to the public, whether it's the consumer or the industry, to start making change. And so I think it's really incredible what you've done. So now moving into a little bit more specifics around UGG supply chain, and a lot of designers, have a hard time sometimes with identifying, which way to go or where to start. So I'm curious to hear what were some of the first areas of UGG supply chain that you identified to further promote sustainable practices, responsible design?
Yes, great question. Yeah, when we believe really that we first must measure what matters. So identifying what matters, what we can control, the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, is first, for sure. And once that's determined, we can really research what areas will have the most significant impact on them, so we can focus all of our efforts there. So as an example, one of the first actions that we took was we looked at our top styles. So we physically really cut open styles to see if there was an opportunity to eliminate materials that were not necessary in future design iterations. And that was super impactful. And from there, we began really utilizing this LCA tool to inform material selections. And this is still an ongoing effort. And it's all about using the information available, I think, at the different points to select materials that have a smaller footprint. But you need the tools to do that. And speaking of supply chain, I also want to really take the opportunity to speak about the people in our supply chain. People, they are our most powerful assets, and we must ensure that everyone, including workers in our factories, are protected. So we have really a robust ethical supply chain program, which is auditing all of our Tier 1 factory partners on an annual basis. And it ensures that they're all working in healthy and safe conditions, they're paid fairly, there's no forced labor, no child labor, etc. And we've gone above and beyond and also offer a 24/7 hotline to factory workers so they can voice any concerns they may have. And then finally, we have this long-standing partnership with Her Project, which is a collaborative initiative that strives to empower low-income women working in the global supply chain, a very powerful organization. And through this initiative, we have empowered 33,000 women so far, and we have a target of empowering 100,000 by 2027.
Yeah, again, going back into both the pieces of the supply chain as it relates to the product and the hands that are making them, that you have to focus on both. So I think those are both extremely important to find a balance and support through that. Speaking of some of the different alliances, and that you kind of just mentioned, and at the beginning as well, you have a lot of different alliances and partners that you engage with, through the platform that you have, and just overall, it sounds like through the work that you do within your supply chain. With some of the instances I've seen is forest restoration, Apparel Transparency Pledge, the Savory Institute, and many, many more that you can just see on the Feel Good site, and through the work that you do. Who have been some of those other strong partners for UGG while you navigate responsible design that you maybe didn't mention yet?
Yeah, no, we really believe in the power of engagement, and we actively work with various stakeholder groups in both the creation but also the implementation of our corporate responsibility programs and the policies. So the stakeholders include, like you mentioned, third-party NGOs, employees, suppliers, industry groups, communities, and even governments. And we've worked with a wide range of external stakeholders, our social programs, including Better Work, social and labor convergence, and Business for Responsibility. I think one we're excited about is that we've aligned with the Transparency Pledge to create more meaningful corporate accountability. So this partnership really helps demonstrate apparel and footwear companies' commitment towards greater transparency in the manufacturing supply chain. I just mentioned Her Project, they're a key partner. Humane Society is another one. We've collaborated with them on both the adoption and subsequent revisions of our ethical sourcing and animal welfare policy. Canopy is a key partner for our paper and forest procurement policy. So these organizations are really important. What we also do is provide training to our design teams on a regular basis. So we involve and invite industry experts to inspire them on key sustainability topics. And we've held a wide range of workshops, including focused on circularity, material innovation, sustainable development, and regenerative farming that I talked about earlier.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like designers can do on their own as well.
Absolutely.
To integrate some of those educational opportunities for their staff. And that's something hopefully we can provide through Materials Hub, workshops and different things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a key point, Cal, is that, sustainability, we can't achieve that in a silo or on our own, right? We have to kind of recognize that it's all about partnerships with the experts, partnership across the industry to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one initiative that I thought was super interesting that definitely would love to get some more information on that I've heard about is your repair program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. It's really exciting. So, we know longevity, durability, it's really important to UGG, right? We carefully design and manufacture our products so that they're really made to last. On average, we know that about half of our consumers wear their classic boots for 5 years or more. And also, we just learned that an environmental study from the Footwear Distributors and Retailers of America that looked into consumer perceptions around sustainability said that they rank durability as number one when they're looking for information on sustainability of pair of shoes. So we just understand that extending the life of a durable product is key for the consumer, something we pride ourselves on, so a huge opportunity. So we looked at what we're doing right now, and currently we offer two things to extend the wear of our boots. We have very popular care kits, we have insoles, but we knew that there's many consumers who want to show their UGG boots even more love. and also more consumers who want to really figure out a way to reduce waste. So this fall, we're going to introduce a new service that we call UGG Renew. And this is a paid service. It's cost less than half of most of our popular items, like the classic short. It's free round-trip shipping. And we're going to offer 3 tiers of service on our UGG Classic boots. One's a full restoration with binding replacement, a new outsole, to a full deep cleaning. So customers can really select the service that's best for them to extend the life of their classic boots to like new status. So yeah, so we're excited about this service. It's going to launch in November this year, in line with the commitments we made at Earth Day. And
That's amazing.
yeah, and we're starting pretty small. This is a very premium service. We work with craftsmen and cobblers to really execute it at the level we want to, but we have really big plans to scale this program up in the next few years, which is really exciting. So I think then we can really make an impact, not only on consumers and their beloved classic boots, but also keeping shoes out of landfills, which is an important piece of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And just imagine if you can do this for any product eventually, in your wardrobe. I mean, it could be a really, really extremely impactful, move for the industry and for consumers alike, rather than, continuing to, of course, get new product, because I don't think that will ever end, but ensuring that the products you have in your closet can remain there for much longer.
Agree. Yep, absolutely.
But I think, within, you mentioned the United Nations and their Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, and there are so many others as well that are, telling the industry that change needs to happen, change needs to continue, that, we've seen all over the industry and all over the world. What do you believe needs to happen or continue happening to shift the industry to meet those goals? You mentioned, collaboration. Is there anything kind of additional that you would add to that?
I mean, it's almost like the systematic shift in how we all do business, right? Because I don't think we can think of sustainability as a separate, goal from other indicators of success. So I think instead it's about integrating sustainability as a holistic part of a company, really having it take part in every business decision. And we're aware, and we feel every day, this is a big shift, right? And it's something that we're still working on. But I think that's what it's going to need to take in order to make really significant and meaningful impact that might lead us to meeting these global goals. I would say something else that's really important is that it's about basing the work and approach in science, and that's what we really do here at UGG. So we're working with the industry experts to really understand where we are and where we want to go. So as I've said, we've been measuring our materials through the LCA, but we've also been undertaking this thorough assessment of our entire business's carbon footprint. So from this, we're now creating a meaningful strategy to reduce and mitigate the greenhouse gases we're emitting. We're setting science-based targets. That's going to ensure we're aligning to industries and standards. Those are big shifts. And another big shift is this support of regenerative agriculture that we're really excited about to lead. Land is really the life force of our planet, right? It's used to house us, to feed us. It's the source of many of the materials that we make our products from, but it's in danger. So because of intensive farming, overuse of pesticides, fertilizers, chemicals, the health of ecosystems and topsoil is really deteriorating. So we really have a responsibility to take action to repair the damage that's been done. So yeah, we're excited about this next chapter of regenerative agriculture and how the industry can get behind that. It can, as I mentioned, lead to increase of biodiversity and sequester carbon in a powerful way. Healthy soil, plays a key role in storing carbon. When a plant grows, it takes in carbon, converts it really to carbohydrates. It pumps some of this through roots to feed microorganisms and then turns it into soil. So in essence, this process kind of takes carbon from the atmosphere and stores it in the soil. So it can be a very powerful way of capturing carbon and storing it in the ground. And I think, our aim as a company, Cal, in general, is to look at reducing the negative harm that we do, but also increase the positive impact. And I think a lot of people and companies are looking at reducing negative harm, but we want to really make sure that we all look at increasing the positive impact. So And without grounding the approach in data and science, it's really hard to understand exactly how we're doing either of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I think, the largest group of our designer network is, small to medium sized businesses, whether it's,
Yeah.
designer by themselves or a brand with a team, behind them. So I'm going to move into a few questions that kind of, maybe speak even more to that size level of business, since, Audi is such a massive brand with, great resources and obviously doing very good work with those resources. So I'm curious to see a few answers to these questions that kind of speak more to the smaller brand now.
Sure. Yeah.
So first of all, what areas of the supply chain do you think a fashion designer or their team, can easily start making decisions to create more responsible products that maybe you've seen, through your model, or you're able to share through more of a smaller lens?
Yeah, and I think it's important for designers to sort of go to factories, to textile mills, and it's important to really see firsthand the challenges that are presented in footwear and apparel manufacturing. Seeing waste, for instance, seeing the waste that's there, I think that can help and empower designers to be creative of how they design, question how they utilize their design to minimize this problem, right? So I think educating them and empowering designers with the resources to solve these problems can be very powerful. I think that's obviously what we're here today, and what we want to try to empower the industry with. It's all about education and all about understanding the impact every single individual can do, because everyone can make a difference here. So we must start there.
That's great. And I think that's what where our heads at as well with the materials hub, is to say this is one small part of the entire, fashion supply chain. What is the next initiative that we release, that speaks to a different piece of it, whether it's all focused on people or all focused on some other aspect, within manufacturing or logistics and shipping, or, whatever the case is. And so I think that's what we're trying to figure out, is that roadmap as well, similar to how a brand, really focuses on it. But we saw that materials was such a massive piece of this, and also something that our designers are very much asking for. So it is a great starting point. But as you said, there's a lot more you can do to change that impact quite a bit. So that's great.
For sure.
And what other advice, whether it's about sustainability, whether it's perhaps about marketing in its role in sustainability and responsible design, or just overarching for a business owner within the fashion industry as a designer, what other advice would you give to young designers as they grow their businesses?
Yeah, I think sustainability, it's a journey, and one that will never, perhaps conclude for UGG as we continue to challenge ourselves. And it's about progress, not perfection, right? So don't get hung up on the perfection. Progress is what's key. So for instance, now we're informing our designers and our PLMs, how important their actions are to overall sustainability strategy. I think, again, measuring what matters is key, so figure out a way to measure what matters, streamline your product, don't overcomplicate things, look to be creative and design what you have, not necessarily just adding new and new, I think are all good starting points, which have guided our journey.
Yeah, I think that the piece around progress, being the most important thing, is something that I tell a lot of the young designers I speak to every day, is that also around how do you communicate that progress to your consumer and show that it's not a one and done thing. Like you said, you may never be done with this journey, and
Yep.
I think the industry never will be as well. So I think that that's something that you need to find a way to communicate to your consumers, to say,
Yep.
we haven't gotten to our packaging, redesign or reevaluation of it, but we're getting there, and that's next in our, long list of items that we want to really tackle as it relates to becoming more responsible within our brand practices. So I think that's definitely something that should extend to communication internally, as you said, externally, consumers, and the industry overall.
Absolutely. And I think education is key too. It's really about like absorbing what the industry has to offer, all right? So I think that's something that everybody can dig into. There's, many amazing resources, an example from brands, how to pursue a more sustainable business model. Obviously the CFDA, your website is a great resource there. I think we're happy to partner with you on that. And our website is another example, but there's so much out there. There's so much free or paid subscription services that doesn't cost a lot of money to get the people on your teams really educated around how they can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a, it's a blessing and a curse now that there's so many resources out there that,
That's true.
it's hard, sometimes are hard to navigate, but at least you have those discovery moments and, finding those different groups, whether it's, our joint work, the Materials Hub or, Textile Exchange or the
Yep.
SAC or, many different other organizations that do a very good job of aggregating information. And that's one of the main goals of this Materials Hub is to aggregate a ton of information so you can have those discovery moments and then go off and, meet, speak, and connect with the experts who are doing it firsthand to be able to start integrating the change that you need to do within the supply chain to meet your goals as a business. I think that's really incredible. So to close out, we had a few questions submitted from our viewers that we'd like to ask on their behalf. The first one is being, what are the first steps a brand can take to achieve better supply chain transparency?
Well, for us to achieve better transparency in our supply chain, I think I mentioned we joined the Apparel Transparency Pledge, and it's really a way to demonstrate the commitment to being open about where our products are made and by who. So that's a great first step. According to the Transparency Pledge, this lack of transparency can even cost lives, and poor and exploitative working conditions are there for workers. So transparency doesn't, of course, not fix every social issue within the fashion supply chain, but I think it's a crucial piece of the puzzle. So transparency is a key part of brands taking more responsibility for the people behind their products, gives them more visibility over where the products are coming from. And at UGG, I think we work with our suppliers directly, right? So let's make sure everybody does that. It's all about relationships. So, and by joining this initiative with Transparency Pledge, we're supporting ongoing efforts to ensure social standards within our supply chain are met.
That's great. And you touched on this a little bit, but when you're searching for new production facilities, whether it's finishing the goods, sourcing materials, the mills, what types of questions, or do you look for certain certifications to ensure that they're ethically and socially responsible?
Yes, absolutely. We have significant processes in place through codes of conduct and policies and certifications to make sure both new but also existing production partners do business in an ethical and socially responsible way. So we have an ethical supply chain supplier code of conduct, which is really for our business partners that sets out all the minimum things we expect from them. Includes following all the laws and regulations for no prison labor, no child labor, no employment of workers under the age of 16, guaranteed wages being paid no less than social minimum wages for all working hours, etc. We do have a very substantial ethical sourcing and animal welfare policy. We only accept animal hides that are byproduct of the meat industry, not raised exclusively for their pelts. It covers a lot of different areas of sound animal husbandry and mule sling, responsible alpaca, cotton, down. And I think the key is to have these pieces in place and then on an annual basis really make sure that everybody lives up to what they've signed up for. So we do a lot of work with our supply chain partners to make sure they meet our high standards and then continue to meeting them.
And so that's all the time we have for the session, but I'd like to thank you again, Nix, for all the time and all the amazing insights. I think, again, this really shows that, the journey takes so much and there's so many different aspects to that journey within responsible design and, becoming more sustainable for our industry. So I really appreciate all the insights you're able to share through this session.
No, thank you. Thanks, Colin. Thanks again, CFDA. We're very excited about this. And we're excited for the future. So thank you.
Likewise. That's great. And so just as a reminder, the CFDA.com Materials Hub will launch next week, and we will complete an educational walkthrough of the site in next week's session, followed by a panel with some small to medium-sized enterprise brands who are tackling responsible sourcing, which will be held next Thursday, October 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find the registration links to next week's session and the remaining sessions that we'll cover fiber and packaging innovation on CFDA.com, or you can request those links by emailing supplychain@CFDA.com. Thanks again for joining and have a great day.